Hello and welcome back. This is Mote, and hello and welcome back to GG Kolkata's YouTube channel. Don't be surprised to see me here. This is usually Sudipta's domain, but this time I decided let me take over for a few minutes. Well, not a few minutes, a little more than a few minutes, and talk to you about one of my favorite edtech tools, and that is Mote. Let me quickly bring up my screen, and here it is. So, all of the participants here, those who've joined in, I'd love for you to tell me how many of you have heard of Mote, or better still, used Mote. So, I want to give you a couple of seconds to type that in. And in the meantime, I'm going to introduce myself to you. So, I am Sanchita Ghosh, and I am GG Delhi NCR's co-leader and share captain. As you know, GGs are voluntary groups of teachers who come together, who are really passionate about using educational technology to really make learning interesting for the students, to give them an experience, an excellent experience of learning rather than just learning some content, right? And I have, of course, been in the edtech arena for quite a few years now. And my idea is to not only use edtech for myself and develop my lesson plans for my students, but I also encourage my students to use the very same tools to demonstrate their learning to their teachers. And while I've been at it, I also got passionate about sharing my experiences, my knowledge of using education technology with more educators as well. And when the world went into a lockdown, and I think that that was a phase when there was an explosion in not only the kind of edtech tools available to us, but also the willingness of a lot of educators to jump onto the edtech train and take learning, meaningful learning, back to their students. Mote, of course, is a tool which was born sometime before the pandemic, and it really strengthens itself. And I saw over the 2 years that we were fighting with the pandemic, trying to get meaningful education to the students, Mote continued to strengthen itself. So initially, Mote had started out with just being a voice tool for feedback. Now it is so much more that you can do with Mote. So in today's session, that's what we'll be looking at. I'll share some of my own work, my colleagues' work, and some great ideas that have been shared by educators from around the world to really help you make learning interesting for your students, making learning inclusive for your students with the help of Mote. So let's get started then. I hope all is well. And I was still waiting for a couple of comments to come up. So far, let me see. Oh, yes, great. So Shanti, hi. And amazing, you're from Canada, so it must be really early morning hours for you. So do go in into the chat back again, and do let me know how you are using Mote. I think everyone's heard of Mote now. But not everyone is using it, and I think it's one edtech tool which is kind of is an unsung hero, because it integrates so seamlessly with so many tools, especially with the Google set of apps, which we often use for education, whether it's Google Classroom or some of the other core Google apps like Slides, Forms, and so on. Right, great. So let's get moving with our slides. So as I said, Mote really began as a feedback game changer. And why is it so? Basically, it's because it allows you to save time. So you're saving time typing. Many teachers, often would say that it takes me so long to figure out where the keys are. I mean, because I've been typing for so long, I can type with my eyes closed, but that may not be true for a lot of educators. and it often saves you a lot of time. Secondly, your voice always is able to uh, convey your feelings, convey your intentions more clearly than just empty typed words. So if I were to put whatever I'm saying just as a typed passage and send it out to you, I wonder what you would think. Why are there so many words? But when I'm talking to you, when I'm looking at you, when I'm talking to you, you hear the enthusiasm in my voice, or the lack of it, or maybe I'm annoyed with the students, so the students might hear my annoyance. Or simply, if you are a kinder teacher than I am, I'm very strict. But if you are a kinder teacher than I am, definitely your kindness also shines through in your voice. And for a lot of children, this is really crucial. Especially, this is key for our younger children, who are not yet great readers, but definitely who understand the language, and they hear the smile in the teacher's voice, and they hear the enthusiasm, they hear the fun, and they hear the kindness of the teacher. And that really makes a difference when the student is preparing herself or himself for learning. It has also been shown to improve learning outcomes. So Mote, in fact, ran a survey some time ago. I was luckily part of that survey as well, and 96% of the teachers feel that there's been an improvement in student engagement via voice feedback. 30% higher than those using just text. So what I'll do is I'm going to give you the link to the report, which was published by Mote themselves. And I'm just going to pop it into the chat. Okay, hope it's going up. Yeah. So just go in there when you have time after the session. Just go into the link and take a look at what the report says. It was quite a detailed report that the team worked on, and there are a lot of meaningful ways in which this engagement has increased. So take advantage of this tool, and of course the scientific data that backs it up absolutely. Hi, this is International English Club. I wish I knew your name. Do pop in your name in the chat so I can take your name. It's always nice to do that. Great. So you're a teacher, and how can Mote benefit you? That's really what the session is about. And definitely, I am a great Google Classroom fan. I think it really changed the way I communicated with my students. And Google Classroom plus features that is really in the education domain. So as an individual, I'm not sure how that works, but definitely if you are part of a school, then you can get your school administration to look at the options. There are 4 tiers to Google for education platform, the domain for school, meant specifically for education institutions. These are tiered. The lowest level is free, and if you want any of the additional features, then there are 3 paid tiers, which your school admin can verify and find out more about. All right. Okay, let's get back to our presentation. As I said, they are beautifully integrated with Google Apps. So whether you've got Google, you've got Gmail, you can integrate with Gmail itself. So instead of typing out your email, you can leave a Gmail note, if that makes any sense, for your whoever's the intended recipient of your email. It's quicker than typing out an email. Uh, and I always say that if it's an informal mail, go for Mote in Gmail. Formal, well, Sudeepta is an English teacher. She may not approve if I say that, you can use Mote for a formal email as well, but you might try and see. You can integrate Mote into Google Docs, into Sheets, into Slides, Forms, and even Classroom as well. So these are some of the core apps that we use for Google for Education. So really, really powerful. For language integration, Mote is super, super powerful. Often when we are learning a new language, we don't always know the right way of pronouncing a word. So if the teacher demonstrates and puts a Mote into a slide, for example, or in a document, the student can listen to that, replay it, listen to that again and again till he or she gets it right. And in turn, the teacher may also encourage the students to record their own Mote and to repeat back the words or sentences or phrases so that the teacher can see whether the students have really mastered the spoken aspect of language as well, of the new language as well. It also helps improve listening skills. Now, this is again really powerful to be uh, to be able to listen correctly. CBSE has something called listening and speaking skills assessment. Um, so you may integrate technology into it, and the idea is to help students to listen to uh, passages, listen to what is being said. We often say, okay, podcasts are an amazing way to help focus our attention. I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I think I've become a better listener since listening to podcasts. And I'm not like, my brain isn't running ahead of me, and I'm really listening to the speaker and what they are talking about. um, and of course, Mote allows you to do to organize mini podcasts as well. So we're going to look at that towards the end of today's session. But the fact is, when you are going to be recording some voice instructions, or just a short passage that you might read out to the students, and then say, okay, now this is listen to the passage and then answer the following questions. So it's great practice for listening for students as well. Speaking, teachers can encourage students to record their own voice in the Mote platform, and the teacher can play back and figure out how well the student has mastered the spoken aspect of languages. Really important, especially now that we often struggle with, or rather I get very disappointed when I hear students mispronouncing some very common words. And one of my pet peeves is when students mispronounce the word compare. So often they come up and say, "Oh, I'd love to compare." Like, compare what? So to get them to master these often mispronounced words is again super powerful tool in the hands of teachers. Keep your comments coming, because let me just pop in and see if there are if there's anything new. Okay, great. Yes, Sudipta's right there in the chat, so that's super helpful for me. All right. Language barriers is another thing that we often face. Uh, whether it is children coming in from families where they do not speak the language that the student is using to learn in school. So if it's a place like Delhi, often we have children from many different states coming in. They may or may not have studied in English earlier, because I know a lot of states do not give instruction in English up to grade 5 or 6. And they'll often come to us, and they have difficulty understanding more complex instructions when they're giving it out in class in English. We also have children coming in from the economically weaker sections, or first generation learners, where they absolutely have no English support at home. So Mote can also become a great tool for teachers to help these children who are not familiar with the English language, to also overcome these language barriers. And of course, if we look at it in an international sense, I mean, if I were to go to Indonesia, not everyone would be speaking English there. And if I need to be able to converse with somebody, simple things, that where can I find, for example, a restaurant, or where could I find a restroom, for instance. So I could use Mote to help me translate, and I could speak in English, and Mote would translate that. And whoever I'm asking for help, I can play that back to them, and they can understand exactly what I'm saying. And they speak back in their native language, and I can translate this over Mote and understand what they are saying. So, not very complex things, but definitely simple communication that is essential to be able to move around freely in a new country which does not speak the languages that I do. It can be very, very helpful and powerful. What can we do? I will very quickly in a bit demonstrate how we can integrate Mote into Google Forms and Google Slides. You can leave instructions. You can ask students to respond via Mote as well. Google Docs integration is pretty straightforward. You also have instant translation available, but I think it's in the paid version of Mote, not so much in the free version. And if your school purchases the license for Mote, this will be a feature which will be easily available to you. So if you are in a school where parents especially are coming in from multilingual backgrounds and they may not speak the language of the particular school, it could be a very, very handy tool for parent teacher communication as well. We were talking about diverse languages. Diversity also includes learning disabilities. As a social science teacher, as a history teacher, I often have a large number of dyslexic children in my class who struggle with reading, um, who often they find it difficult to focus on the printed word. If you've watched the movie Tare Zameen Par, you might figure out how a lot of children might be seeing the printed word itself. So they may not be able to read my handwriting, but they struggle to read printed letters as well. So Mote can be of great value here as well. You can add voice instructions. As I said, I'll quickly demonstrate on a form how we can do that. So you can create a quiz and you can add voice instructions, and you can record the question itself in your own voice, so that the student is not struggling to simply read. It is also very handy when you're dealing with very young kids who've not yet learned to read fluently as well. So they can just click the little Mote note that comes up, and they can listen to what you're saying and then go ahead and answer the quiz. It is being used currently across the world as a whole class solution, so that no kids are left behind. So whether there is a learning disability or whether there is a language diversity, Mote is proving to be a very, very useful tool for everyone concerned. Let's see if I have right. So what we'll do is, okay, what I'll do is I'll finish with the presentation and then I'll show you the demonstration. So we can hold those links for a while. Right, I think we are at the end of the presentation. Great. So we are doing very good, very well on time. I didn't want to take up too much of your time. Let me see if I'm missing any conversations and chats. All right. Okay, let's go into a few demonstrations. Recently, not recently, this has been a while. I think I did this last year when I was teaching um, the Renaissance to my students, Renaissance art to my students. And I thought that this would be a great way of me first looking at a piece of art, inserting some voice notes, as you can see, some voice notes here. And then I asked my students to do the same. So they were supposed to, each of them, choose a piece of art, put that image in a slide, and then take each one of us to look at each aspect of that particular painting or sculpture or a building which was created during the Renaissance phase of European history. So I don't know whether you'll be able to hear it, so I'm going to disconnect my earphones for a bit, so that pick that up. And Sudipta, in the chat, if you could just give me a thumbs up if people are able to hear that. So we'll start with this. Just check up the volume as well, so that, yep, right.
So in this painting, the Last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci, what he has tried to represent is the exact moment after Christ has declared to his apostles that one of them is going to betray him. And you can see the shock on the faces. They're either looking at each other and thinking what's going on, what is Christ saying, or they're looking in complete amazement and shock at Jesus Christ himself.
Right, we'll play one more soundbite.
So Christ is
Oops.
right at the heart of the painting, the calm center, which also represents Christ's divinity. And if you look at all these perspective lines, Leonardo da Vinci is drawing your eye towards Christ, that he really is the most important element in this painting.
Okay. Right. This kind of became a very popular tool. A lot of people asked me to share that with them, share the template with them. It's very easy to do. All you have to do is just put in an image on your slide. And let me see. No, you can't see this. So I'll have to show you my entire screen. Okay, let me bring you back here. Okay, I'm going to stop presenting and present my entire screen. So it'll be easier for you to see what I'm doing. All right. There. Should be popping up any second. Yeah. All right. So, for example, let me just, we've done this one. I'm going to escape from here, from my presentation. And I could now, I've already got the Chrome extension installed. So I hope most of you do know how to, install Chrome extensions of various apps. All you have to do is to go into Chrome Web Store, and they have a little search bar on the top right hand side. Just type in Mote for Chrome, and it pops up, and just add to Chrome, right? And this will show up either here next to the URL bar, or you can go into this jigsaw puzzle where it'll be sitting waiting for you to open it out. Since I've pinned it, it shows up on my my bar itself. All right, so I want to insert a mote here. So all what I will do is I'm going to click on the extension. I'm taking a chance here because often it gives me trouble. Okay, let's record a voice note. And let's try this and say, all right, what are the new ideas for using Mote in my classroom? I've recorded this. It's on my clipboard. It's 5:51. Okay, no, I think there's... All right, I think, again, I'm not getting the option of inserting this into... Okay, I'm going to try this once again. Okay, I'm not getting the options. Okay, I'm going to download this and let's see what happens. Sometimes things will not work the way you want them to, but it's okay. I'm going to save this and this away and insert audio, because that's an audio file. What I will then do is upload this into my drive. There was a shorter way. For some reason, those aren't showing up. So we'll upload the file. This was in downloads. MP3 file, as you can see, should pop up in a moment. All right, there it is. Let's go back and let's try again from insert audio. There is the new one. Okay, my system is slow. Yeah, creating audio. And there it is. I don't want to play it automatically. And here it is. Let's see. Here, this looks very tiny. So we're going to make it larger. Wait, let me just take it elsewhere. Oops. Okay, I'm going to put it here. Make it a little bigger. Oops. Yeah, this leads a little bit of... Okay, let's see. Yeah, I'll pull it out from here. That's better. I can change the color if I want, because if you saw in my previous thing that I'd shared with you. There are a whole lot of colors I can use. Let's use yellow to give it some nice contrast. And there it is. And I'm again going to disconnect my earphones and play this out for you. Go into slideshow mode. And we are loading. There we are. All right. And let's try this and say, all right, what are the new ideas for using Mote in my classroom? Perfect. So, uh, instructions for your students on the slide. You can even leave comments via Mote. Let's just try. Um, comment. Okay, for some reason it isn't showing up, is it? Usually the Mote thingy shows up when I'm trying to comment. Well, I think it's just slow, so it's not showing up, but it's okay. You next time you can try this. Once you have Mote installed in your Chrome extensions, or rather Mote Chrome extension installed, you can try this out via adding comment. Okay. Right, so we've looked at art. Let's look at a timeline. So this was created by one of my colleagues. This is on how Nepal becomes a democracy. So this was, of course, the header slide, and then the students would just move in, bring their cursor over each of these time tiles and play them one by one, right? So all they had to do was bring in, a shape, type it in, and they've hidden. So she's hidden those little that loudspeaker icon behind this tile. So again, very super easy to do, nothing too complicated. And okay, let me show you how we can work with Google Forms and Mote. Because I've got the Mote Chrome extension here, every time I start creating a form, I'm going to have this little Mote icon, visible in my form in its editable format. Right. Hi, MK. Good to see you here. Wonderful. Okay. So I already have put a Mote note here. Let's just add one more. So I'm going to come into this question in the edit mode. And all I will do, if especially I have children, either who have a reading issue, they don't read that well, or there's a vision issue, there's always, they can use the mode. And I'm going to add this. So I'm just going to click on this and look, it started recording. So I will just call out the question here. How will you contribute to the club and its activities? We're done. Very quick. It's right there. And let's look in the preview format as to how the students will be seeing this form. So if I'm a student and I've got the Mote extension installed as well, I can actually reply via Mote as well. So you can see in the response form as well, I've got these little Mote icons popping up. So I can respond to this. I can listen to what the teacher has said. So we're going to try this. Why do you want to be a member of this club? And now I'm going to record my as a student. I really love history, and that's why I want to join the Miras Club. All right. And the student response has been recorded here. So once the student submits this form, as a teacher, I'll be able to look at the student's form response and see what voice message the student has left for me. So you can actually have an entire Google Forms quiz in a voice format. So if you're a language teacher in particular, this can be really, really useful for you. If you are teaching very young children who are not yet fluent readers, you can give them a Google Forms quiz as well. This was one of our early struggles, I remember, and Sudeepta here will agree with me, that a lot of the primary school teachers said, but we can't use Google Forms. They need their parents to read out the forms for them. So, a kid in maybe a kindergarten or grade 1, when they're not reading that fluently, they cannot attempt Google Forms independently. So they will need their parents or some person who knows how to read sitting with them. Yet now, with this Mote integration, it has become super easy for the little ones to be able to take Google Forms quizzes. We often collect data from parents and we might send out Google Forms to them. We know in our school we have a lot of parents who've never gone to school. Or if they had gone to school at some point, by now they've forgotten everything. So it's often quite useful, to use this Mote feature to get the parents' responses verbally as well, right? All right, so that was our form. And now let's look at some more ideas. Let me first show you this. Right, so I'll share the link in a bit really quickly. But let's quickly go through some of the ideas that various teachers have shared on the Mote platform, which you can take a look at and see how you can use it for your own teaching purposes. So we'll quickly go into slideshow mode so you can see the screen better. Let's see. Yeah. And I'm just going to make it a little smaller for me so I can control the rest as well. Right. A lot of you have heard of the SAMR model, the substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition of learning. So Mote really does help you do that. So as we look at some of the examples, we'll see how we are using Mote for not just substitution and augmentation, but even further modification. And what is truly transformational is the redefinition of how we learn, right? Um, right. So we'll skip the film. So here you have a language teacher who's teaching Italian, right? And the student, when they look at this, these are some of the most common food items. So you've got coffee, you've got a fruit salad, you've got pasta, my favorite, pizzas, fish, and bread. And the student can go over each of these sound notes and listen to how it is pronounced, right? Super powerful there, isn't it? Now look at this. This is an amazing idea that that a teacher got, and she or he is asking the students to explain how they would get from church to the art museum in the Spanish language. So again, for language teachers, but as a social science teacher, I like to use a lot of material made for other subjects for my own lessons as well. We do a chapter on maps in grade 6 in geography. And one of the activities that we do with our students is they create their own imaginary city, right? And in that map, they are going to use some of the important and well-known legends that we use to read maps. So we could integrate something there. So this is really a mini city, and students can pop in little voice recordings as well to tell more about, maybe if it's a place of worship, or it's a museum, or it's an old building that the students want to talk about, right? So super powerful there. Just an instruction slide on how to insert modes. You can have a book report, or ask your student to read out the favorite portion of a story, via a mote. So again, for language teachers. This is again very, very interesting for history teachers. So you've got these different kinds of sources here, and the teacher can ask the students to leave a voice mode describing what kind of source is this, and perhaps extend the question further and say, how valuable or how reliable is this particular source. So if it is, let's say, someone's personal diary, the validity and the historical accuracy might be under a little cloud, because we are all interacting history as per our own baggage. We when we write things into our diary, we also know that maybe there's a possibility that someone at some point, might read my diary and judge me for what I'm writing. So I'm not going to be so honest in my diary entry. So something like that, the students could be encouraged to talk about. So when we're looking at a newspaper article, how reliable is a newspaper article as a source of history? How reliable is a speech, for example, as a source of history? Really, yes, and Kaushal, the food activity just blows our mind as well. And we can do this as perhaps a class teacher's activity. Delhi is a microcosm. In fact, the whole of India, there's so much diversity around. This can be a non-subject specific. If you're a class teacher, you can actually create a resource crowdsourced with your class, and look at some of the staple food items, for example, from the part of the country that they hail from, and they can use the exact pronunciation. For example, I never knew the difference. I mean, I always forget, what the vada with a hole, the donut, not the sweet donut, but the southern Indian vada with a hole, and the one with the chana dal vada, they have different names. And I always get confused which is which. So maybe if somebody could make a Mote resource for me using Google Slides and Mote Notes, then I might remember what those vadas are called, uh, in future, and never forget that. Right. So this is a kind of a math activity, Kaushal. So this would really appeal to you. So here are these two questions, and Mark has these two opportunities. So which job should Mark take? So $10 an hour for 4 hours, $5 an hour plus a $25 bonus. So which one should he go for? So cool stuff, right? Biology teachers, for example, you deal with a lot of diagrams. You can use again Mote notes to label different parts of the diagram, or here, as the teacher has asked, telling the difference between these two kinds of cells. I really don't know what these cells are. Maybe I'll click on these voice motes and figure them out for myself. It can be a debate. So again, language teachers, you can actually have a mini debate in class, a silent debate, for instance. Students are listening more than just talking into their machines or interrupting people. That's a great way of doing a debate, especially with the little ones, where they struggle to keep quiet to listen to others before they give their own opinions. Then, of course, you have a farm activity. This is actually a song, very famous song on the farm. Old MacDonald had a farm. Counting again. So the children can count these animals and then add a voice mode saying how many animals, total number of animals, how many. Would that be sheep or would that be goats? I think that's sheep, shared sheep. How many pigs, for example, or even identifying what these animals are. So, really cool stuff. And here you are. This is again hearing each sound. How are each of these pronounced? Again, maths activity. So, count the number plus one, and you insert a voice mode saying, giving out the correct answer, right? So, isn't this fun? Homes, where does each of these animals live? So they can actually go out, and the kids can do a drag and drop, as well as listen to the voice mode and figure out what is to be done. um, Bookflix, we are all familiar with Netflix and Netflix for education, and this whole concept of let the students choose what they want to learn. So this is super powerful. So what they've also done is looked at Bookflix in the same kind of format. It has several books on animals. If you'd like to listen to any of these books, just click on these and go on. um, this is fun. So this is the teacher who's perhaps she is a physical education teacher, and she's talking about each of these things that the students will do over the week. Or maybe she's a biology teacher, or maybe she's both. That's interesting. So you see how this is like super super useful for teachers. Okay, we're going to skip. Yeah, which muscle of the week? And that's interesting too. Again, oh, this audio file does not exist, but you can add your own. We know that. So you see, this particular teacher is super creative when it comes to using Mote in her classroom. I am super impressed with this one. Okay, my slide gets stuck here. Didn't go on. Exercise of the week. My system is really slow. All right. So these are some of the ideas I'm going to share. Uh, See, everything loads so slowly. So I'm going to share the link with all of you in the chat so you can look at it at leisure. And here is the chat. So whatever subject you teach, you modify these as per your requirements, and this can be super, super useful. All right. Um, Now here, this is from Mote's own website. So again, I'm going to pop in the link in the chat. Look at it at your leisure. Lot of material here. So as you can see, there are a lot of instructions to how you can build each kind of mote activity with the students. This is something which is really valuable, especially those who have a diverse class where children are coming in from different backgrounds. In my classroom, I know I have a bunch of children, who are from the northeastern part of the country, and it's not always very easy for me to pronounce their names correctly. And I know as a student how annoyed I used to get when people didn't get my name right, and I thought, such an easy name, why don't people get it right? But sometimes we do struggle with students' names. So you can actually, as an opening activity for the year, when you get your new class, or maybe there's a new admission in school, you can encourage them to send you a mote note pronouncing their name, so that next time you call out their name, you're using it the right way. There's an idea for an audio discussion, so you might, it's a template, so you can put in your main idea here, and each of the groups, they can start putting out their idea. So it's a great mind map that you can build with your class. Then this is micro podcasting, super interesting. This is something I will be trying with my students next week, and I know this is going to be really interesting as well. So how do you plan a podcast? What are the different segments of a podcast? So each group of students may be given this slide, and they start putting in their voice notes, and at the end of it, it looks like a complete podcast. um, Audio rubrics is again very valuable. We often share rubrics with our students when we give them projects, and voice rubrics can be very useful again for students who find it difficult to read. They can always hear what you're expecting the students to do. There's the book club, there's creative writing exercises. For example, when I had showed you, looking at art, you can use this as a creative writing format as well. So you look at this piece of art, and encourage the students perhaps to write some more about the Last Supper, or maybe other, or maybe any other artwork by Leonardo da Vinci, and or maybe they pretend that they are Leonardo da Vinci themselves, and kind of do a diary entry as if they were recording their diary entry rather than typing it out. We all A lot of us do this see, think, and wonder. So instead of the students just typing it out, they can leave a voice note. Warm up activities for language teachers, especially foreign language teachers, this can be very useful for us. Vacation reflection, again, was a very interesting activity I did do with the students after summer break, where they shared the highest point of their vacation, and something that they didn't enjoy during the vacation at all. So kind of helps you engage in social emotional learning activities with the students as well. Student goal journal is something that can also be done via Mote. You've already got a math activity here. So Kushal, if you're still watching us, you can check this one out. Choice board for geometry, for example. You can create personalized certificates. I was trying this out for today's session. I didn't get the time to complete it. This would have been fun, where I would have asked you to fill a form, and you would have received a certificate where your name would have been called out. So thank you, so and so, for attending today's session, and this is your certificate for the day. So something like that. So yeah, and you can see well-being check-ins happening here. So a whole lot of resources. So just check out their website. There's a lot that you can do with Mote. Somebody was asking about Google Classroom. I don't have one ready, but let's see if we can. This is, of course, my personal um, thing. Let's see. that works. You can even leave voice messages in Google Classroom. It's very handy. My students actually prefer voice notes rather than uh, you know written notes. Okay, let's just go into this demo one so that I'm not randomly sending stuff to people. Okay, good. So I can go into classwork. And I don't think I have any people there, but yeah, there are no people here. But I can leave, for example, I view material. And here in my class comments, so I can leave individual comments. Since in this classroom there are no students right now, but I could leave individual notes for students as well. Here as a comment, I can leave something like this, and I can say, I hope you found this resource useful, and I'd like you to do the following exercise. So when next time the students, and I can just pop this over to my students, and this is what my students are going to see when they open this material or whatever assignment or whatever whichever is the segment where I've left this note for them, and all they have to do is just play and listen, right? So really powerful. There's also a lot of back end stuff to Mote as well. Maybe in another session we look at how to use the data that Mote collects for you. How many students have listened to your Mote? How long did they listen to it for? All of that data comes into you as well. So you also know whether the students are engaging with the material. For example, if I just left a typed note here in Google Classroom, I wouldn't know how many of them has read it unless I also say that once you've read it, put a thumbs up, right? A lot of students may even forget to put the thumbs up. We're all in a hurry, as are our students, and they might forget that. But this will collect a lot of data. How many students have played this, which of my students, so if I'm leaving personal notes for my students, have they opened the note, have they heard what I have left for them as well? So it also tells me something about how engaged the student is in my class. And if I feel that they are not engaging, I might find more ways of trying to pull the child back into focusing on the educational activities that we have organized for our children. All right, let's see if there are any questions. Any questions, please pop them into the chat. I'm going to stop presenting my screen. All right. I hope I've shared all the links with you. Now, let me see. Oh, I have. I'm not sure if I've shared the presentation. Yeah, I have. I've shared the presentation link with you all. In case someone wants to try out the timeline, as is, if you're a social science teacher, we're still teaching this topic. So I'm going to again pop this one in. This was the timeline. The long links, I should have shortened them. Does Mote have an option of working online? So far, no. It doesn't work offline. But that's a great thing. In fact, if you do go into the Mote website, right at the bottom, there is a little tab which asks for suggest a feature. So just go to the bottom of the website and go in and say we'd love to access this offline as well, because yes, students who are in remote areas, teachers who teach from remote areas where your accessibility to internet tools are limited, this can be super valuable. So go in and ask them for that feature. Let me see any other that I am missing. That was one. Let's see. And if anybody wants to use the looking at art one. Oops. Yep. When the net is slow, things don't happen the way you want them to. But anyway. And this is the looking at art. Here it is. All right. So I think the next link has also come up. Yeah, super. Are there any ready-made lessons that you made for the session? Ah, yes, it was the Google form, but yeah, in fact, this was the one. I'm a history teacher, so usually my resources are all history related. So these are the two that I've shared with you. In fact, Kaushal is the one who asked this question, right? So what you can do is look at, for example, Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper, and think of how you could use it for maths. For example, when we look at perspective, what are the angles of the lines of perspective that you might use, and how much distance will that show? What is the depth that one sees, therefore, in a two-dimensional um, uh, in a two-dimensional painting. So definitely that's something that can be done. And Kaushal, if you do that, do share how you worked with it, so that next time when I'm going to teach history to students who also do maths in my class, it could be an additional integrated assignment for them. Okay, so I think are there any more questions? Right. So what we'll do is, since there are no more questions, um, if you're watching this video after the session is over, do put in your questions in the comments. Sudipta will be watching out for the comments, and she'll let me know if there are any questions and if there's anything specific you want to learn with Mote, so that in the next session, whenever I come in, I can actually focus on that one. Uh, Maybe a make and take. Maybe we'll do a make and take next time, Sudipta. I think that should be interesting to do, right? So with that, before we leave, do not forget to subscribe to the GG Kolkata channel. Periodically, the team comes up with some very interesting sessions on teaching learning, not only with digital tools, but also different techniques of learning, um, strategies that you can use in your class, depending on what is the kind of diverse learning needs in your classroom, for example, or how we can have specific strategies for specific kinds of subjects, or when you want to plan a multidisciplinary approach, what are the best strategies to use there. So GG Kolkata does some really great work in this field. So keep your comments coming, keep your questions coming, and don't forget to subscribe to GG Kolkata's channel as well. With that, I'm going to bid you a very good rest of the evening for those in India, and have a great time ahead. If it's morning for you, have a great day ahead. If it's nighttime and you're ready for bed, wishing you a great week ahead. With that, bye bye.